Okay guys, in today's video, Moose wants to invite you to see how do we adjust the belt on a Mach2 mount. And this is going to be a follow-up to the video that I did where I had some issues with the vibration on my Mach2 right Ascension axis. So in this case, little Moose is having some treats. Grab your popcorn and let's see how to do this. Okay, it's very windy out. You'll probably hear it, gusts of wind through the vents in my garage roof. So what I've decided is just to set this up inside so that you can hear what I'm saying. And I'm going to go from Park 1 to Park 5 at 1800. Now I've set this up without anything on it because Roland says that he adjusts each one of these belts. So I'm sure he just does these on a bench, you know, with just the RA, you know, deck and like this, and then just turns it on and checks it. He's not going to fully load it. So that's what I'm going to try here and see what happens. So I'm at 1800 go-to slew speed. Going to go to Park 5. You'll note there's no noise this time. No vibration. Now I'm going to do the same thing, go from Park 1 to Park 5, but I'm going to put some stress. I'm going to put some force on this as it's moving to see whether or not we can get this to do anything, because the last time I had it loaded, I don't know if that was a fluke or what was going on. So I can hear the motor change the sound a little bit, but I'm pushing against this. Can you hear that? But it's not vibrating. So what do I do from here? What I'm going to do is go ahead, put my 130 GTX on here like I had the other night, put my counterweights on, get it set up here in the garage. Before I do anything else, I don't want to put any covers back on yet. Don't want to get it all back together and have that sound. So once it's apart, I can easily go in here and do my adjusting. And like I said, I elected to do it this way without anything on it because I'm sure that's how Roland does it. And I didn't ask, but he's not going to load down. I'm assuming he's not going to load these down with equipment. He's just going to bench test them, as you see here. Alright guys, so I'm all set up. Got the 130 GTX on, and I kept it to the same two 10-pound counterweights that I had in my video when it was vibrating. I normally would use like my 24 or something like that. I could move it up a little bit more, but that's what I had at the time. So I've got everything as it was. Now I'm going to go, I'm in park position 1. I'm going to go to 5 at 1800 slew go-to rate. You know, no vibration, no sound. Quite interesting. So, may have just been a fluke the other day. Full moon, who knows? Same thing, guys, but at 1,000 go-to slew rate. I'm sure you can probably hear that wind howling in the roof vents that I have in my garage here. So that's why I'm doing it inside. Hopefully the lighting's not too bad. Hopefully you can hear those motors are purring very nicely. No vibrations. Remember I had that. If you look at that video, I'll put a link to it. It was vibrating at 1,000 and 1,800. And of course making the noise when it was vibrating. So at this point, I am not going to do any adjusting. There's no reason in it. I'm going to call that a fluke. I know how to do it, but I am, as promised, going to show you, since I have everything apart, as far as the covers, I am going to show you the process as given to me by Roland on how to do this adjustment. Before I go on, though, I do want to show one thing. I want to kind of what would happen if the motor stalled because the mount hit something, the scope had hit something. So I'm going to be doing a go-to slew at 1,800 from park position 1 to park position 5, and I'm going to purposely try to stop the mount. Okay, so as you can see, it stopped. Nothing showed up on here, but I'm going to go hit stop on here and see what happens. Okay, so now let me go to the main menu, setup, push number 4, and I'm going to hit 5. And it continues on. So as you can see, the mount does stop. So that should ensure that there is no damage to the motors or anything, which is nice to know. So originally then, when I had the video, Roland responded and said that the stepper motors will hit resonant points if the belt tension is set too high. If you send me an email, I will ask, or I will walk you through setting the belt tension so it doesn't do that. So I did that, and then his answer was basically the motor is entering a resonance condition at high slew speeds, usually only at speeds above 1,800. It's caused by the belt being too tight. And so then he goes on to mention how to do this, and I will do that. But first I'm going to show you the covers to that motor. Now this is the back one that goes right on to the housing of the mount. This would go on first, then this would sit on top of it. This would bolt on just like that. And then this is notched out. As when I put this back together, you'll see how it's very simple. The wire from the encoder, I'm assuming, goes into here and into where it belongs. And as usual, beautiful machining. You can see here how that will accept the cover. Sets right in here so it fits. It doesn't just lay on top there, it actually fits in there. And then your cover, all out of billet aluminum. So very nice. Now One thing is, once he sent me these directions, I had a couple questions. One of the questions was that I asked was, it looks like the back cover can be taken off with no encumbrances, correct? I would much prefer to have the back cover off completely to do the adjustment. The only thing I saw was a wire going from the RA axis up and then in through here. So to take this off, okay, it would be dangling on that cover. I didn't see anything else, but I wanted to make sure. Now, Roland's answer was, loosen the cover and move it out of the way, but don't unplug the connector in order to completely remove the cover. If you break the connector, it will be very hard for you to fix it. Now, I looked at it, and I'll show you when I put it back together. I elected to unplug it, but that was me. That doesn't mean you have to. Because when I set this thing up, as you saw, I didn't want this dangling to mar any paint, do any scratching. I thought it best to be out of the way. The plug for me came undone very easily, and so that's what I elected to do. So that's why I just wanted to mention that what Roland says you should do. Now, another reason, guys, for wanting this off completely is I originally was going to do this outside, but again, as it's windy, I'm not. But even if I did it, well, it'd be easier if I did it in my garage. But if I was outside in the grass with these bolts down in here, if you loosened them, my thought was, this thing's up on an angle, right, to my latitude. So if for some reason they'd fall out, get in the grass, chances of finding them might be small. So that was, again, one of the leading points of why I elected to take this off inside the house where the bolts would be safe from being lost, and then that way I wouldn't have anything in the way or dangling from that wire. Alright guys, so as to the bolts, you've got 2 for the backing cover and you've got 4 for the front cover. They are both 632s. The backing cover is a 632 by 3/4 inches long, and the front cover, they are a 632 by 1 inch long. Stainless steel. So let's get a close-up look with those covers off. Here's that wire that I was talking about that I unplugged, and here's the cable arrangement. Comes out of the RA axis, you see right down here, and it comes out, and they have, and I have the other part, they have a oh, what the hell do you call that, that would stick on here, okay, on the back side of this, and then it would just stay on here, then the covers would go on. So I've got that piece that goes on here, and again, and then so they've got, looks like a locking material to keep those from backing out. Very interesting. Just to kind of show you some of the construction. And then here are one of the 4 where those covers screw into. And over here we see the bolt, or the belt, I mean, and so the 4 bolts that we would loosen, I will show you, are going to be these right here. Those 4 that you see. So now to do this job, you have to have a 2.5 millimeter Allen wrench, which would fit these to loosen them up. Now, in part of his answer, once you loosen those and tighten them up, he states, do not put a lot of torque on these screws with the short end of the Allen key, or you may strip out the threads in the motor. So, the other day when I took the covers off just to look at things, because again I was going to do the job today, which it looks like I don't have to, at least at this point, because I'm not going to fix what ain't broke. because it's not making that noise today. I could either use my screwdriver type Allen, or I could use a standard length. But what I thought I would do is I would take what was a standard length one and cut it down. The length on the short end is 3/4. That's the factory length. So then I took the long end, made it 1.5 inches. Now my thought is the following, is when I tighten it up, okay, I wanted to be very careful on torquing it, and so I was going to put this on on the bolt, and then when I went to tighten it, I would hold here and then just gently push and feel, so I wouldn't over torque it. Another thing that I was going to do is when I put this on here to loosen it, I'll put it up like this just for the camera's sake. What I was going to do is when I push down on this, okay, but I'd have it down here more like this so I could get a better feel for it. When I did that and pushed on it, I was going to get a relative feel for the tightness, how much force, you know, on each one. So loosening these, you could use the longer arm, but since I'm going to be tightening it up with this tool that I modified, I'm going to loosen it so I can feel how much force was required to loosen it. And again, I'm not going to do that because I'm not adjusting it today. But that was my thought process in doing this. So as to those 4 bolts, okay, that you see there, Roland states, if you loosen the 4 screws just enough to allow the motor to pivot on the bottom left screw, which would be down here, so once loosened, you'll be able to rotate this back and forth, which would effectively allow you to put more tension or less on this belt, okay? You can adjust the tightness of the belt to eliminate this. And then he further states, I adjust each mount here on the bench before shipping. So that's why, like I said, guys, when I initially was going to check this, I had all the scope off, because, again, he states himself, he bench tests them, and he's not going to put equipment on it. And and then he says, I back off the belt tension until the motors will slew at very high speeds without resonance. Very high, up to 5,000 times. Sidereal. However, it may be that I tighten your RA belt too tight and it did not show up in my testing. So again, you know, it didn't happen now. Not gonna fool with it. I'm gonna just call that a fluke, and we're gonna leave this as is. So, but that's what Roland states. He goes on further to state, if you want to try backing off the belt tension, you will need to remove the screws from the second cover so you can get to all 4 motor screws. And I've already discussed what I did there. Once you do that, simply loosen all 4 motor mounting screws and let the belt relax. Then grab the motor and gently rotate it clockwise until the belt is somewhat tight, but not really tight. Then tighten 2 of the 4 screws. You should be able to push on the top of the belt with just finger pressure and have it move in, parentheses, flex, about 1/8 of an inch. Now guys, when I push in on this, I would find this to flex probably, you know, and just using, I'm not, you know, if that's a force, just kind of pushing in, that should be plenty loose. I mean, that's more than 1/8 of an inch right there. So I would call this good. Again, going back to, was the other day a fluke? I don't know. But this does look like it's more than properly tensioned as per what Roland says he does. Then Roland states in closing with those directions, try the slew at that point going east, parenthesis, going west will not ever resonate, end of parenthesis. Once you get a good tension on the belt, tighten the rest of the motor screws. And then, as I stated earlier, he states, and he underlines, do not, is underlined, put a lot of torque on those screws with the short end of the Allen key, or you may strip out the threads in the motor. Now, as I stated earlier, Roland said, loosen the cover, that's the backing cover here, loosen the cover and move it out of the way, but don't unplug the connector in order to completely remove the cover. If you break the connector, it will be very hard for you to fix. Now, Again, as I said, I looked at this and it unplugs very easily. Just like that. You just grab that side and that side, and it is polarized. As you can see here, it's got a point here. It's flat on the bottom. It's got comes to a point there, so you can't plug it in and reverse it. And it's got these little, like a little tab up there and a tab there, but I just grasped it, and then you just kind of pull it apart like that. So just thought I'd show you what I did. Otherwise, again, you'd have to pull the cover away and then down. I suppose you could put something here. I didn't want it to get any scratch. I didn't want any damage or any stress being pulled on these wires. So again, that's why I did that. And just a couple other things here. When I had some follow-up questions for him, one of them was, basically, I won't read the whole thing, but I state, can the belt be damaged if too loose? Roland's answer was, belt cannot be damaged in any way, whether loose or tight. So I thought that was good to know, and I thought I'd pass it on to you guys in case that is a question you'd have. And then another question I had was, out of curiosity, what material is the belt made of? And of course, Roland said stuff, good stuff. So I was glad to hear that. And then I also asked, can the deck axis be adjusted the same if it made a noise down the road? Again, I have no issue with it at this point. And then Roland's answer was, I doubt that you ever need to do that. And then finally, I was kind of curious when he said this. I said, you said, and then quote, and then just part of what he had said, point going east. He goes, going west will never ever resonate. And I said, interesting, why is that? And then his answer was, beats me, I have no idea. So I just thought in case anybody else would have those questions, those are the answers. All right, so now we want to get the backing cover on. We've got it unplugged. And we've got to pull that down. We're going to put this up against her like that. Okay. And then, when I did this, I had the mount on the ground. One reason why I didn't want to loosen this when it's up in the on the mount, lose any of these screws. But let me get this one started. See, that one started. Let me get the other one started. And again, there's only two that hold this on. Normally when I do this, I would do it on the ground with it, so this is up, but for the video to show you guys how to do this, I'm going to do it like this. It'll be easier to show you. And then just a little snug, nothing major. All right, next guys, we want to plug in the connector. Okay. Just like that. And it's got a small piece of Velcro, double-sided, sticky. We'll put that on like that, and it held that just in place, just like that. Keep it out of the way. Next, we want to put our cover on. Now you'll note that it's got that cutout here, and that is for our wire. So you'll just come in here and bring that wire in like that, okay, and then simply put that cover on. And let me grab my Allen wrench. We'll get one of these started. And as I showed earlier, there's 4 of these. And I'm going to back that off just a little bit, because what I want to do is I want to get all 4 of those started before I snug any of them up. Okay guys, so all the screws are in. As you can see, it's a little loose. I just do that so I make sure they all start good. Nothing will be jammed in there, the screws. And then we'll just go in here and just give them a nice little snug, nothing major. Just like that. Job completed. So in closing guys, I want to thank Roland for his help in this and in the past, and also George and Howard and everybody else. I don't want to miss any names when you order something, and if there's any questions. And I state that because I'm just going to say this briefly because of a couple emails in my last video that I did, which was titled Astro-Physics Mach2 Equatorial Mount Vibration Noise Issue. So for a couple of those, and I'm not going to say any further any names, who, well, let's just say that this video that I'll be putting up on this, on adjusting the belt, will be my 395th video on my YouTube channel, Star Astronomer. Of those, 96 are of an astronomical nature, and a large portion of those are of astrophysics equipment, in which I showcase and extol the virtues of their equipment. I dare say I don't think there is any other YouTube channel that has as many videos that I have on astrophysics equipment, in which I promote and showcase their stuff. And again, not that I need to promote their stuff, I just do the videos because they need no one to showcase. Their name precedes them in their quality. But I just thought I would state that in regards to several emails in the forum that had popped up. So in any event, I'm going to leave it just as at that. Alright guys, so as a final test, now that it's all back together, let's just see what happens when we slew at 1800 from Park 1 to Park 5. There it is guys, no noise. Whatever that was, I have no idea. It didn't do it. I know what to do in the future should I have to make an adjustment. Looks like Roland's adjustment was just fine. Maybe there was a total eclipse of the sun somewhere on the planet and affected the belt that day. I don't know, but we're good to go. And hopefully the video is helpful if anybody does have to make an adjustment on their mount on the Mach 2 belt. They'll know how to do it.